In this video, I'm going to talk about layers in Photoshop. So if you were making a collage out of things you'd cut out of magazines, you'd cut out a hat and you'd cut out a cupcake and you'd have a background big piece of paper that had the giraffe on it. And you could move them around and you could stack them on top of each other. So if I wanted to move around the hat, I could move around the hat. And if I wanted to move around the cupcake, I could move around the cupcake. And if I wanted the hat on top of the cupcake, I could, if I had pieces of magazine cut out, I could take the piece of paper that had the hat on it and put it on top of the cupcake. Well, Photoshop works in exactly the same way. And it does that by use of layers. So over here is the layers palette. And you can see we have the giraffe, we have the cupcake layer, and we have the hat layer. So the first thing that's good to do in Photoshop is always label what your layers are. Especially if you have something very small on them, it's hard to see in this little window what it is. So to label your layers, you do that by double clicking on the name. So I can write in giraffe. And here I double click right on the name and write in cupcake. And over here, I write in hat. Now, if I want to move the hat around, I have to be on the hat layer. So I'm using my move tool up here, and I can move the hat. If I want to do something to the cupcake, I have to be on the cupcake layer. And if I want to do something to the giraffe, like Control I, which inverts it, I have to be on the giraffe layer. So anytime I want to do something to a specific part of my picture, I have to make sure that I'm on the right layer. I would say 99% of the time when something's not working in Photoshop, it's because you're not on the right layer. So we've talked about how to rename them. So let me show you how to move the layers up and down. So if I want the cupcake on top of the hat, all I have to do is click and drag over to the right on the layer, and I can drag it to the top, and now the cupcake's on the top. If I drag the giraffe to the top, because it's so big, it blocks everything that's underneath. They're still there, but they're blocked by this much bigger piece of paper that's on top of them. Now, you can make layers invisible. They're still there, but you can make it so you don't see them. And you do that with these little eyes. So if I click right here on the eye, I make that giraffe invisible. It's still there. I can turn it back on again, but I can make it invisible, and then I see the layers underneath. So let's pull that down to the bottom. If I want the cupcake to be invisible, I click on the eye on the cupcake layer. Same with the hat. And if you want to duplicate a layer, you can right click and say duplicate layer and have it be called hat copy. And now I have 2 layers of hats. If I want to do a transform tool, like we talked about before, to the copy of the hat, I have to be on that layer. And then I can do Control T and make that smaller. Maybe rotate it upside down and press enter when I'm done. So that's how you work with layers. That's how you rename them, move them up and down, make them visible and invisible.